Hello, how you doing? Today I just got back from the range. Zoomed in a little much. I've got 20 rounds of brass sitting here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the process and show you the techniques that I use and the things that I do to take these spent cartridges to live rounds and be ready to take them right back out to the range. So first things first, I don't know if you saw my shadow on my chest. I was putting my safety glasses on. Make sure you wear these. We are going to be dealing with ammunition. We're going to be dealing with live primers and gunpowder and all that. So basically, these are going to go from here, and at the end of the video, they're going to be a finished product ready to take out again. Now, I'm going to talk in depth pretty good. I mean, I'm not going to trim any necks or anything like that, but I am going to go into detail a lot about what I personally do. I'm not by any means a reloading expert or anything like that, but I do have a little bit of experience. I've been loading a little while, and the press that we're going to be using today is the Dillon RL550B. It's a great press. It's a manual index progressive press. It's a 4-station press. So the first thing is first, you know, it's generally literally the brass that I'm holding in my hand right now. They have spent primers. They've been shot. Now, I'm not going to trim these, and that is because just before I loaded these and took them out to the range, I had trimmed them the previous load. So I'm going to ignore the trim step on these. However, I do have 2 cases back here that I am going to trim just to show you the process of what I do to the cases, basically just to show you for the video. Another step that I'm going to skip on the video, however, like I said on the trimming, I'll show you that step as well on these 2, and that's going to be swedging the cases. I personally go out to the range a lot, and I pick up a lot of military brass, a lot of Lake City brass, and they have on the primer pockets, I don't know if you can tell, but they have like a little circle that goes around there, and that's where they crimp in the old primer. The swedger is going to be the tool that I'm going to use to get rid of that primer. So the first things first, though, before I do any trimming or swedging or anything of that nature, first thing I'd like to do is take this piece of paper, lay it down, and I'm going to take my 20 cases and I'm going to lay them all down on this paper, put them in a line, and I'm going to spray them with Dillon case lube. DCL. This is great stuff. What it is it's got alcohol in it and lanolin. Notice I only used 1 squirt. It doesn't take much at all. So I basically spray them down, and I'm just going to let them sit and let the alcohol evaporate so that what's left on the cases will be just the lanolin. We'll get back to those here in a minute. I'm going to set this stuff aside, and I'll introduce some of the other tools and things that I'm going to be using while those are drying. I'm going to be using a small digital Frankfort Arsenal scale. I also have a nice pack scale, but honestly, this one's very convenient, and I don't have that pack scale out right now. These 2 cases, like I said, they're going to be basically, I'm going to show you how to trim them. I'll show you what the swedge looks like, and I'll probably end up loading these as well. This is my Hornady deburring tool. It works really well. I use it after I trim the cases. I'll show you that. This is the case mouth brush. Works really good for going in the neck, in the mouth, and cleaning out that area. Here's my bullets that I'm going to be loading. There's 20 rounds here. These are 55 grain Hornady full metal jacket bullets, and they have the cantilever on them. They're a really good bullet. The powder that we're going to use today is Varget by Hodgdon. Now on their can right here, they have some loading data that says for a 223 Remington with a 55 grain bullet, they recommend 27.5 grains of varget. However, we're not going to be using that hot of a load today. We're going to load these at 25 grains. Don't take my personal loads, you know, don't trust me or anybody else on these videos as far as load data and stuff like that. What you need to do is you need to do your own research, get on the internet, go to this Hodgdon website right here, hodgdon.com. I hope you can see this. You can also go to IMR Powders and go to their website. They have the same link to this loading site where they give you recipes for all kinds of bullets and powder. And the reason we're going to be using 25 grains of varget is because in my Lyman edition, my Lyman 49th edition handbook, and I'll show you here, this book, it's great. They show for 223, hopefully you can see this. Let's get over there and I'll show you why. But they show that I should use 25 grains. What they'll do is they'll show a bunch of different powders and a bunch of different bullets, and they'll have one of them that'll be in bold, and the one in bold is going to be the one that's most accurate. So here we go. 55 grain bullet. I hope you can see this. And you notice the varget is in bold at 25 grains. We're getting 2977 feet per second and 34,700 is the pressure of the case. 2.26 is the overall length and 55 grain bullet. So the varget in this book recommends 25 grains. That's why we're doing 25 instead of the 27.5. We're going to do 25. So I'm going to go ahead and take this varget and I'm going to put some into my press, and then I'll be right back with you. I'm only pouring enough just to make 20 rounds. I'm not going overboard. Just a little bit in the press, then we'll be ready to go. So I'll set that aside. I always leave this on the table right by the press, therefore I know that's the powder that I'm using. The primers that we're going to be using are CCI small rifle primers, number 400, and I already have them loaded in my pickup tube for my small primer pickup tube. And when I pull the hitch pin, the primers are going to fall into the press. I'll show you that process here in a minute. So let me see, what did I miss? A flashlight. I recommend having a good flashlight because, and I set it right next to the press because when I do my reloading, sometimes I need to look into a case and make sure that it's got powder. You know, sometimes the lighting ain't right or there's a shadow in the area and I can't see. So the flashlight works really well for that. This is the Dillon case length gauge. Ah man, these things are great. I'll show you more about this at the end of the video when we've got the finished bullets. The trimmer that I'm going to use today is the Lyman Universal Trimmer. Now I'm going to take these two cases and I'm going to decap them, and then I'm going to come back over and trim them for you. So bear with me. I'm just going to decap real quick. One, pull it out, set it aside. Two, pull it out, set it aside. Now I've resized the cases and I'm prepared to trim now. So I knocked the primers out, I resized, full length resize, and now they're ready to go onto the trimmer. I already have this trimmer set to a specific length for 223s. So I'm just going to insert, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit for you, get a better view here. This is one thing I like so much about this Lyman Universal. You just put them in, lock them a little bit. I usually like to put the arbor in first, and then I'll lock this little cam, and it works great. And this trimmer is not mounted to my bench or anything like that, and that's because I take it in the house sometimes. I hope you can see what I'm doing here. Sometimes I take it in the house, and I'll sit there and I'll watch TV. How do I know when it's done trimming? I know when it's finished trimming, because this ring around here will hit the body of the trimmer. I'll bring it up and let you see. Let's see, this silver part right here, when this black part hits the silver part and they come in connection, this cutter can't go any further. So that's how I know that I'm done trimming. So that one's done. Set it aside, put this one in, and like I said, I'm only doing this just to show you the process. There we go. Those two cases are trimmed. Now let me bring them up to the camera, and hopefully you can see how they look as far as the edges are kind of rough. So to get rid of that rough spot on the, see, there's a good view of it. To get rid of that rough spot, I need to use my deburring tool right here. So I'm going to basically put the case inside and I'm going to get rid of those rough edges. Switch and do the other one. Same thing. From here, I'm going to flip my deburring tool over and I'm going to go inside the mouth of the case very lightly. You don't want to take out too much of the case. Don't take too much brass. Just very lightly deburr the cases. So now I'll show you the mouths of the cases. They're nice and clean. I hope you can see that real good. And this is the steps that I do before I put them on the press. Now let's look at the backs of these. The primer pockets are kind of nasty looking, right? So this is where the swedger comes into play. And what this tool does is amazing. I just basically put the case in here like so. I like to lay the handle so that it'll come over the edge. I'll try to do it at this angle. Lower the case down and basically lower the handle, and when the handle goes down, I gotta do it at an angle here. The handle pushes a thing into the primer pocket and it takes out that military crimp. Whoops. Go down and swedge. This tool is amazing what it does. So now if you look at these primer pockets, you can see they're a little bit shiny and they're a lot more uniform than they were before. So these are the cases ready to go into the press. They've already been decapped, resized, and they need just to get primed. So let me bring this swedger up close and show you what it does. Back up in here by this plate, and move this out of the way, you'll see when I lower the handle, you see that little piston looking thing coming out. I hope you can see that. There it is, it's exposing itself. Basically what that's doing is it's coming into the primer pocket and it's forcing that military crimp out. This is a great tool. I love it. So we're done with that. Zoom back out a little bit. Next tool I'm going to use is I'm just going to use my little brush and go in the mouths of the cases. And you don't have to go overboard, you know, just a couple times just to clear the mouths of the cases so that they're ready to accept a bullet. Now these cases are ready to go. They're ready to load. They're nice and trimmed. They're swedged. They have clean case mouths. They're ready to go. I use a little air on them. They're ready. So now I'm going to move the camera and I'm going to show you my press, and we'll start talking about reloading. So the press that we're going to be using, as I mentioned earlier, is the Dillon RL550B. Okay, and right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust up and I'm going to fill the primer tube that I was talking about earlier. Inside here, whoops, That's the low primer alarm. There's a guide rod. You take this guide rod out and you lift the low primer alarm out. Get your primer pickup tubes, and the side that has the clear ending, you put that into here, and the hitch pin. I don't know if you can see. I hope you can see what I'm doing here. Anyway, you pull this hitch pin and all the primers fall into the system, into the tube. I like to follow it up with the guide rod just to make sure that my primer pickup tube is clear. Put my primer alarm back on, circle it towards away from me, put this arm down, and the primer rod goes back down. So what happens is when this thing, as we use primers, it'll get lower and lower and lower, and when we start getting low, it'll activate that alarm letting me know that, hey man, you're getting low on primers. It's pretty nice. Pretty simple device, works good. Put my primer pickup tube away, and now that these cases over here, they're ready to load now, because the Dillon's DCL is dry and they're ready to go. So now I'm going to focus very closely on the press itself. I'm going to start getting into the reloading process here. Now remember, the first two cases that I did, that I demonstrated the swedger with and that I demonstrated the case trimmer with, I'm going to do those first. So I'm going to insert into station 1. No need to resize on this one. I'm just going to prime it by pushing forward. Index to station 2, and I'll go ahead and resize station 1 anyway. Not that I need to, but I need to get station 2 up into the powder measure, which by the way has the rifle metering insert, or excuse me, rifle powder bar they call it. When you buy a Dillon press, they give you one for rifle and one for pistol. So since I'm loading 25 grains of varget, I needed the rifle one in. So I'm going to raise the ram, and what's going to happen, station 1 over here is going to decap, resize, and station 2 is going to get a load of powder. 1. There we go. And I'm going to wait a couple seconds. Not that I need to, but I just need to wait just a little bit, because I don't want to get overzealous and run the chance of my powder spilling on my shell plate. Now, since I added those 2 other bullets to the mix, I'm going to grab 2 new bullets to add to my tray here. I like to buy bullets in bulk. I don't know if you can see, but I buy them by the 1,000. Those are the Hornadies. So now, station 2, I'm going to index to 3, get a bullet, and insert a new case to station 1. So station 3 is going to be doing bullet seating. Station 2 is now going to get a charge, and station 1 is going to be decapped, resized, and then primed on the upstroke. Here we go. And forward to prime. Index, looking at station 3, I'm going to turn on my flashlight so that I can see the level of the powder in the bullet itself, because you never ever want to put a bullet tip on there and seat it if you don't know your powder charge is 100%. Excuse me. So you got to make sure everything is right on the money. I'm going to adjust this depth a little bit. I forgot to put a case in 1, sorry. Let's go back to station 1. There we go. Now we're set. Now, as you watch a baseball game, you can picture the bases being loaded. Once this happens on this press, you can load progressively, meaning every crank of the handle, you're going to have a finished bullet. There's my first bullet. I'm going to grab a case for station 1, look at the powder on 3, place a new bullet. Cycle, and you'll actually get yourself into a rhythm here, and things can go pretty smoothly. Just don't get in too big of a hurry as far as coming down off that powder charge, because that could be bad. I'm going to move these bullets away so my arm's not getting in the way of the video. Station 3, check the powder. Don't be afraid to use your flashlight if you need to. You know, there's no shame in that. Just because we have a press that can produce 500 to 600 rounds an hour does not mean we have to get in a big hurry. A lot of you guys might be thinking out there, or you might be contemplating on getting into reloading, and you're probably thinking, well, should I go with a single stage? Should I go with a progressive? Man, that question's crazy. What I did personally is I started with a single stage press, and I got through my learning curve with that, and then I decided that I understand reloading enough so that I could step up to progressive, and I'm very glad that I did. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and index, and now what I'm going to do is station 2 right here, I'm going to check that powder charge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my scale, set it on the counter. Let me see, I'm going to back this off a little bit so you can see it. Okay, I'm going to pull this locator button out, and station 2 is going to get charged. But before I charge it, I'm going to zero that case to my scale. So I'm setting it on the scale, and I'm going to zero my scale to that case. Once it's there, put it in the press. Because I don't have a locator button, I got to hold it in there with my finger. Pour the powder. Come on down. Seat the primer in one. And we'll weigh this charge. 25 grains, 25.2 actually, which is good. So we're good on our powder charge. The locator button's going to go back, and we're going to index. So now we're done with that powder scale. We're just verifying that our powder is good. Now I'm going to say one thing here about powder. When you load a rifle cartridge, okay, a lot of times there's room for a little variance. However, when you load a pistol cartridge, there's not, generally speaking, there's not as much room for variance. So for rifles, for this 223 for example, and I'm just throwing some random numbers out here just for the sake of the conversation, but randomly speaking, on a 223 you could go generally between 23 and 27 grains of powder. Okay, anywhere beyond that spectrum. So 23, 24, 25, all the way to 27 and a half, because we know for Varget anyway we can go to 27 and a half. So what I'm trying to say is there's a wide range of powder levels that you can have and still be doing well with your round. But on a pistol, like a 9mm or 38 or something like that, you only have like 1 grain of variance. So you can be like, I'm just throwing a number out there again, you could say, like the book would say, 4 grains on the low side and 5 grains on the high side or something. So we got to be careful, even more careful with pistol ammunition than you do with rifle. And I'm not saying that you don't have to be careful with rifle, you do. But, you know, you have to be a lot more aware of what's going on. Here's another thing to talk about. Double charges. Suppose I put this case in station 1, right back here where my finger is. I put that case in station 1, and let's pretend that I'm seating a bullet in 3, charging 2, and something happens, like with station 1, like, oh man, I just cracked that case, or oh, I just noticed that it won't prime, or whatever. Some people, because this is not an auto index, some people would actually raise the RAM again and double charge their case here. Not a good thing to do. So with rifles, if I was to do that with these 223s, it would be blatantly clear, because there would be powder all over my press, all over my shell plate. There's going to be powder everywhere. But on a pistol, you might, especially like a 357 mag or a 38, one of those long-walled cases, you could double charge and not even know it and let it get past you. So you have to be careful. You have to pay attention. Okay, you could double, triple charge a pistol case and not even know it. So don't get your head out of the game anytime you're reloading. Keep your head in the game. In fact, I'll do it on this last shell just for the video. I'll double charge it just to show you. Okay, getting low on primers. Generally when you hear that, you got 3 primers left if I remember correctly. Okay, we got a bullet. Okay, so I'm going to seat a bullet in station 3. Station 2 is going to get charged, and just for the video, okay, I'm not doing this normally, but just for the video I'm going to double charge station 2 just to show you what it looks like. Okay, so 3 seated a bullet. Let me index these 2 off because they're done, and I'll come back to station 2. Okay, so station 2 right now has a charge of powder in it. Okay, let's say I got confused, something happened, you know, I'm not sure what's going on or whatever. Watch what happens. Okay, I'm charging it again. Here we go. Watch what happens. See all the powder? See all the powder on there? So therefore, look at all that. I'm going to get the camera and take it on hand for a minute, and I'm going to let you see real clearly. This is what happens. That's what a double charge looks like on a rifle. How do you not spot that? But like I said, on a pistol, boy, you got to be careful. It could get you quick. So now that I've made this accident, right, I'm going to have to index backwards, take this shell out, pour this powder back in the hopper, and we'll start over and charge it again. Now I'm going to have to clean all my shell plate and everything, but I did this just for the video, just so you guys could see. And the shell plate's going to be hard to turn now because of the double charge, because of all this powder sitting around, and it's going to be difficult. So, in fact, I'm going to have to blow a lot of this off to get it enough where I can cycle it through. Okay, so 2 is going to get a new charge. And I just did that for the video, just for you. Don't you love me? Now I got to go clean my press. But it's important that you see that. So now I'm going to reposition the camera and talk about these loads. Okay, remember earlier I showed you my case length gauge? Well, that's what I'm going to talk about again. So I'm going to take these bullets that I just made, and I'm going to dump them out on the table here. And I'm going to do 2 things. There's my loading that I'm going to take to the range. I'm going to take my little rag, and I'm going to clean these guys up. Just clean them up. And as I clean them up, I'm looking at the primers to make sure they're seated well, and I'm putting them in this case length gauge to see the length, because this will tell me if the case needs to be trimmed, which they don't, because I just trimmed them the last load, so they should all be pretty clean, pretty good as far as length. But right here, if this bullet was sticking up like this a little bit, even just a little bit, even if it was like that, that means I have headspace problems with this case. They should all be pretty well flush. So I'm checking for that. And I'm cleaning them with the rag just to get rid of any lube that might be left on them or anything like that. Checking them in my case gauge, flip them over, look for the length, things like that. Now, there's another topic that's been floating around, and it's got a lot of controversy, and that is the fact of can you tumble live ammunition after you load it? Now, generally speaking, I've been told no. You know, I've been raiding forums, and there's arguments on both sides of the fence. But I have heard some very credible guys that do a lot of reloading that say that that's just a myth and you could do it. Do I do it? No, I don't.